Hattie Handysides from AM 800 in Windsor. We went through the UAW talks and your agreements. You're coming up on CAW talks in Canada this year. Tell me your thoughts. The CAW is saying they are going to be looking for improvements. They don't want to start saying too much right now, but they are looking at profitability and saying they want a share in that and they want part. How is your feelings going into those talks like that?
Well, much in the same vein as the CAW is refusing to express with any degree of precision their approach to these negotiations, I'm going to take the same road. I'm just going to leave you with a couple of thoughts, and I mentioned this to somebody from the Canadian press outside earlier this morning. I made some comments when I was in Toronto, which have been taken as sort of signs of belligerence in terms of the negotiating stance that we're taking vis-a-vis the CAW. Just to properly redimension what I said and to set the expectations for what I think we were going to discuss with the CAW in 2012. I made it very clear that the two Canadian plants, actually the three Canadian plants that we run, need to be benchmarked and they need to be looked at in terms of a totally connected manufacturing infrastructure between Canada and the United States. And that we cannot tolerate, and we will not tolerate, a differential in cost positions between Canada and the United States that effectively favors one country versus the other, notwithstanding the fact that I grew up and I was raised and I am a Canadian. These are separate issues, right? And so the question, we need to stand up and own this camel. If that camel is not understood, we're going to have difficulty. So I will get there in whichever way the CAW deems appropriate, and I'm willing to work with everybody at the table. But fundamentally, we need to maintain the competitiveness of the Canadian environment against the United States, because those are choices that we make every day.
So are you saying you'll look for the same things you had?
I'm looking for a set of conditions that will make the Canadian environment as competitive as the one that we have in the United States. How I get there, I don't particularly care. If the Canadian government tomorrow morning were to devalue the loonie down to 50 cents to the US dollar, it will go a long, long way in diffusing the interest that I may have in the cost structure. I lived through all this. I lived through the introduction of the free trade agreement. I lived through a loonie that was worth more than the US dollar. I lived through one that was worth 60 cents. I've gone through the ups and downs of this process, right? We all know how we got there. We all know how we maintain competitiveness at those times. We have to make choices in life. We're all accountable for those choices. I made it very clear, right? We need to decide what we want, and then collectively we'll end up with the right answer.
Lisa Guyton from 13 ABC in Toledo. As you just mentioned, Chrysler is to Detroit. I assume maybe you look at Toledo is to Jeep.
Yeah.
Talk about lots of good things happening there. Can you talk about where things stand right now?
No, look, I couldn't be more pleased with what's going on with Toledo. I'd be lying through my teeth. I mean, you know, the fact that, I give you a couple of points of reference. The fact that we asked our people in Toledo to work during the Christmas break to try and make more Wranglers because I was short globally, and that we got 90% plus adhesion to the request without even asking, putting it to a vote, is an indication of a willingness to engage, which is somewhat unique. I can tell you this right now, that from a European standpoint, if we tried to do this, I couldn't even bring it to a vote, never mind getting it to a 90% adhesion. So we're just really talking about a different work ethic and a different attachment to the brand and to the future of Chrysler. We continue to be amazed at how resilient the Wrangler is and how well it's performing on a global scale, not just the United States. And the other thing that obviously is of interest to us is to continue to develop that architecture so that we can maintain it as current as we can without impacting on the capability of that vehicle, which has really been at the heart of its success. The other part of it, which people cannot underestimate, is that the investment that we're now making with the industrialization of the Liberty replacement in Toledo is from an architectural standpoint, is probably the most significant investment that we're making. It is going to move Jeep and the brand itself into a position to effectively redefine the DSUV market. And because of the strength of the brand, that combination of state-of-the-art architecture and powertrains and the brand itself will make it unique. So I have not only in terms of U.S. consumption, but I actually think that the production that will be coming out of Toledo will have a great future in terms of international distribution. So stay tuned. I think that what we'll see here in the next 18 to 24 months coming out of Toledo is a significant rebirth of those operations and a significant increase in output and hopefully employment. So I couldn't say better things. I don't know, I can go on for a little while, but the quality of the workforce in Toledo is outstanding. I mean, if I'm trying to make it, if you don't feel good so far, I'll keep on going, but I couldn't ask them to do more.
Two other quick questions. Could you talk a little bit more about this SUV that's going to be coming out of Toledo? You have mentioned in prior interviews that you're more excited about that than the Grand Cherokee.
I am, because it's like dragging an anchor. I've been doing it now for 3 years. I know what the world without the anchor looks like, and I'm trying to get there as fast as I can. The minute that we unleash the Liberty successor onto an unsuspecting world is the day that I think I'll feel freed. I know that I've had a less than competitive product in the Liberty. We've had to suffer through this as we industrialize the architecture. We had to make a couple of choices that were going to really permanently define that car. We know that stylistically we have moved the brand where we want it to, where we want to have it. It's, I wouldn't even change half an inch on that car, the way in which it stands. And I know that the powertrain solutions that we brought on are unique in the class by a long, long stretch. And we've maintained all the Jeepness that we had to maintain, including all the off-road capabilities, the trail rating capability of that vehicle. So if we blow that car, it's our fault, because it's, the amount of thought and care that has gone on into the choice of the design and the adaptation of the architecture to the Jeep requirements has been phenomenal. So
One more quick question.
Sure.
Certainly that plant will begin running on 2 shifts. There'll be a 3rd shift left. Can you talk about what else you may be bringing into Toledo?
You know what? You may not even need to bring anything in to fill the thirst, if I'm right about that car. Give it a chance. It's the biggest SUV segment in the U.S. And we played poorly. Give us a chance. I mean, you saw with the Grand Cherokee what happens when you get a great car. Right? People wake up and smell the coffee eventually. There's enough caffeine in that car to snap everybody onto the grid here.